bem. Não, bem, leia ao centro.
First, não, português.
Ok.
Ready?
Já está? Muito obrigada por estarem aqui. Queria começar por agradecer à Universidade Católica e aqui à UCP Editora pelo lançamento deste livro. Para nós é uma honra estarmos aqui nesta Casa da Economia de Francisco com a tradução deste livro que foi lançado no nosso encontro em CIS em setembro, agora em português. Para nós, a Economia de Francisco é um caminho que tem sido transformador de vidas e estes conceitos se contam também a história destes últimos 3 anos e da transformação que temos sentido nas nossas próprias vidas e que queremos também fazer e espalhar um pouco por todo o lado. Por isso, bem-vindos. Espero que tenham a oportunidade também de conhecer o resto dos projetos que temos aqui nestes dias da Jornada Mundial da Juventude. E agora passo a parte da minha.
É um gosto, muito obrigado. Muitos parabéns pela iniciativa em nome da Universidade Católica Portuguesa e do vice-reitor que não está presente e que acompanha a editora, o professor Peter Arenberg. Queria saudar a editora, na pessoa da sua diretora, e a doutora Anabela Antunes, e queria desejar que este lançamento seja isso mesmo, um lançamento. E o ser em português tem a vantagem de tornar mais acessível não só a nós, quanto a outros que falam português no mundo, mesmo que com outra conjugação gramatical, como no Brasil, se possam também apoiar neste glossário, que está particularmente bem feito, Stefano, e ringrazio di tutto il lavoro. Gostava também de sublinhar a excelência da tradução. Nós tivemos o Dr. Artur Mourão, que é um homem que é um tradutor de toda a vida e traduz do italiano com uma sensibilidade clara para o português. E por isso estamos muito contentes com o produto final, que agora é só o produto inicial de todo o trabalho que se vai fazer a partir daqui. Grazie.
Okay, so I'm sorry, my Portuguese is very bad, and so I'm using English because this is also the international language here, a lingua franca to connect different people from all over the world who participated in the Economy of Francesco, the project, and this wonderful glossary. So I will just use the next 10 minutes to provide a quick introduction to this work before calling out some of the people who in fact wrote some of the chapters in this book. For those who are connected and maybe are not familiar with what Economy of Francesco is, well, I try to use a couple of minutes to explain a little. It's very hard to define what Economy of Francesco is, because there's not one definition, there is many. Some people define it as an association, but it's not really. Somebody else, like an organization, it could be, but some other define it as a project, or as a place, as an encounter, as a possibility. I think that these more abstract ideas are more effective to express the plurality of ideas and possibilities that are within these notions and this project. So we have to go back to 2019 when Pope Francis wrote this letter to all the young people all over the world, asking them to meet up in Assisi and try to reflect, resonate together, to try and respond to the challenges of the present-day world for what concerns economics. There were 3 main addressees in this call: young entrepreneurs, young economists, so people study economics, and change makers, which is a very wide notion which embraces all the many people who are interested in making an impact on today's world and to try and solve the problems that we have. So we could not meet in Assisi the year after because of the pandemic, but the people involved back then, it was more than 2,500 people responding to this call, studying, meeting up online, creating researches and projects, and trying to organize some small business and doing projects at school. So starting a dialogue and a connection. And a lot of wonderful ideas came out. And I was surprised to see how many different people, really the whole world was represented, with a very nice balance between what some people call the global north and global south, whatever this definition means, and diversity, pluralism of languages, of traditions, of faiths and religions. Economia Francesco also includes people with different faiths and histories, and it's interesting to see how within this notion maybe of change makers, people coming from a different disciplinary background came together. So economy and economics here is intended not only in relation to the specialty of the language of economics per se, but also people coming from psychology, philosophy, literary studies, all together to try and tackle the issues of oikos nomos, the administration, the management of the common house. That's what the etymology of economy means. So I myself was involved with a project with some high schools and some kids in my hometown, because after coming back from this meeting that we were doing, online, I got very inspired, and I thought that maybe young people at school were interested in embark on this kind of reasoning. What is it being an entrepreneur? What is value if we look through the perspective of Saint Francis or Franciscan philosophy or ethics? And I created this project with some kids from, I would say, 16 to 18 years old. And we were working on these notions of economics, the ones that you normally study in handbooks. What's an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is a person who uses the resources to produce blah, 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 blah. I feel that sometimes these kind of definitions are a little limitative, restricted somehow. And so we did an exercise. We tried to ask these young kids who are already they know something about economics, but they're also trying to study and understand that. What if we include in the conversation the diversities? What if in this approach to economics we try to think of the people who are normally excluded by these capitalistic systems? How about young people working in conditions which are not supposed to be there? How about women? How about the planet? How about the environment? And they produced some interesting reflections. And I thought, well, it would be interesting to see how the many scholars, young researchers involved in the economy of Francesco would develop this same exercise. And this is how the book was born. In the book, you will find 33 chapters, which are also some short essays, written by 34 authors international, once again from different disciplines. Each essay is focused on one concept, which is representative of, it's like the summary of all the conversation we had in the past 3 years working together. Some words, some concepts are already familiar to economists, something like value, entrepreneurship, words that you would normally find in economic texts. But they are revised through the perspective of the economy of Francesco, and then we'll try to see how we do this exercise. Some other words, instead, are not typical. They're not normally included within handbooks of economics. we think that putting them into the conversation might make a difference. So that's why, for instance, we have words such as vocation, such as agape, and these kind of interesting concepts which are now entering the discourse, economics discourse, we believe can make a change. So please, if you will ever buy the book, consider this as a tool that you can use to understand more the plurality, the diversity of the economy of Francesco. One last thing I want to say is that there are already a lot of people using this glossary, which so far was available only in Italian, because that back then was the only press that we found who wanted to support this project. But I want to stress that the people involved, which comes from, once again, virtually any country in the world, there's a nice balance of gender in terms of the authors. They wrote in their native language or in English, French, Portuguese, and Spanish, and then we translated that into Italian. And now we are translating the Italian into Portuguese to make it available to a wider audience. And we think that we are announcing that there are other translations projects involved. And just like translation is creating it rethink the distance which exists between people. I think that this project, this book, is trying to cover the bridge and the gap that economy of Francesco is already doing among the people in the world. I think that there are also other projects that we can illustrate because of this glossary, but I think that now it's time to leave the floor to three of the main authors working in this dictionary glossary. So I will leave the floor to Serena Ionta, to Tommaso Bertolasi, and to Maria Hordet. These are scholars, researchers, and many other activities they do. Please have a seat. From different universities, different countries, and they work on different concepts. So I will ask them to just introduce the concept that we're going to talk about, which is also the title of the chapter, and then illustrate the contents. So what is the difference that we try to do with this reframing, rethinking of the economy of Francesco? Tommaso.
Thank you very much, Stefano. Thank you very much, everybody. And I will speak Portuguese. I will try to do it with a Brazilian accent, so I'm really sorry. Então, eu estou muito agradecido, né, de estar aqui com vocês agora e de poder ter essa apresentação do nosso glossário também em português, o primeiro idioma qual foi traduzido o glossário. E o meu nome é Tommaso Bertolasi, eu sou investigador em filosofia no Instituto Universitário Sofia, perto de Florença. E a voz que eu escrevi no glossário é justamente agape, uma palavra difícil, que não se usa muito na economia. A palavra agape, ela quer dizer, é uma palavra grega, que ela quer dizer amor, em português e em muitos outros idiomas, né? Outras línguas. E por que falar de amor num dicionário, num glossário da economia? E ainda mais, por que dizer esse amor com uma palavra tão cristã de tradição, como é o agape? Então eu trato de responder essa segunda pergunta para responder também a primeira. Se é porque dentro de um dicionário da glossário da economia está a palavra amor, agape. A tradição ocidental, sabemos que ela tem diversas palavras para falar do amor. Uma palavra da filosofia grega é eros. Eros é um amor de desejo. Eu não tenho alguma coisa e a desejo. É isso que faz uma experiência cada um de nós, quando também começamos um projeto, alguma coisa, porque desejamos aquela coisa. Então, o mercado tem algumas dessas características do Eros, do amor Eros. Porque, vamos dar um exemplo do trabalho. Queremos alguma coisa, algo que não possuímos e tentamos com a inteligência conquistá-lo. É isso precisamente que faz o Eros. Tem outra palavra da tradição ocidental, que é filia, que ela é um amor de amizade. E é Aristóteles que não fala dessa palavra. Aristóteles nos ensina que o amor é também uma questão de relações. Parece filósofo, no entanto, há uma condição para que há várias, mas há uma condição para que o amor da amizade funcione: a relação entre iguais. O que é isto? Que significa? Então, primeiro que se trata de uma relação, mas de uma relação entre pessoas que podem confiar uma na outra, que produz um benefício mútuo. Então, também aqui, o mercado de trabalho podem ser descritos no termo desse amor, da amizade, né? Negociamos com atores em que podemos confiar, dentro de um perímetro de um contrato em que se estabelece uma proporção da equivalência entre o que eu dou e o que eu recebo. Então, somos iguais. Podemos confiar um no outro. A tradição cristã, ela conhece um amor que certamente engloba as características dos dois amores, do Eros e da filia. Mas também adiciona algumas características. Vejamos quais são elas. E tentarei imediatamente fazer uma ligação simples com a economia, para tentar responder as duas perguntas iniciais. Por que o amor no glossário de economia? Primeira característica do agape, do amor da tradição cristã, é a gratuidade. A gratuidade. O agape ama porque ama. Não tem um interesse. Um desejo, sim, também, mas tem mais, que é uma motivação interna, né? Ama porque ama. Para começar, não precisa de mais ninguém para celebrar o contrato. Eu amo se o outro também ama. Eu negocio com o pobre se ele também negocia comigo. Não. Eu vou porque eu confio. Mesmo assim, se ele não confia em mim. Não há do ut des. Essa expressão latina que quer dizer faço uma coisa porque recebo um benefício. Mas faço uma coisa porque acho que é correto fazê-la. Vamos dar um exemplo na economia. Decido fazer a recolha diferenciada do lixo, mesmo que seja eu o único no meu bairro a fazê-la. Porque eu acho que é uma coisa boa, que eu tenho que fazer. Ou, se eu sou uma empresa, decido produzir com um impacto ambiental reduzido, mesmo que isso me custe mais. Se for um trabalhador, ponho criatividade no meu trabalho e tento ser amável com os meus colegas ou com clientes, mesmo que estas coisas não estejam previstas no meu contrato. Qual contrato diz que eu tenho que ser criativo, o amável? Como se pode medir isso em uma retribuição remunerada? Segunda característica, universalidade. O agape não se limita aos outros seres humanos, mas olha para todos. No mercado há vários exemplos desse tipo de universalidades. O microcrédito é um mercado justo, que não solidário, que não se limitam as grandes atores, mas dão confiança a potencialmente todos. O amor agápico é o amor à confiança, com todos, e não apenas com os atores econômicos que garantem o retorno da ação econômica ou do investimento. Terceira característica, eu vou já fechar o input. Reciprocidade. Se já dissemos que o ato de amor é gratuito, que não espera alguém e dê algo em troca, mas o resultado da ação do amor muda se tem reciprocidade. Se eu separo o meu lixo porque acredito que é correto fazer isso, eu farei mesmo que seja único no meu bairro em fazê-lo. Mas, se os meus vizinhos colaborarem comigo, então o resultado será muito diferente. Então a reciprocidade muda o resultado, mas não a motivação. Conclusão. Aqui estão apenas 3 aspectos do agape. Em algumas das suas aplicações simples no mercado. Isso justifica o fato do lema agape no glossário da economia de Francisco. Só uma economia do amor agápico pode reparar um mercado talvez demasiado centrado no amor a si mesmo. Ou às pessoas do meu grupo, da minha lobby, do meu interesse. Então, o amor agape propõe ações econômicas que incluam todos, sobretudo os marginalizados, os excluídos. Obrigado.
Thank you. So my name is Maria Jure. I come from Norway, and the concept I've been given is relation or relationship. And to me, as a psychologist, elaborating on a possible definition of relation through the lenses of the economy of Francesco was a very interesting task. Relationship is one of the most crucial concepts within my field, and calling to mind that the word economy derives from the Greek term oikos, referring to house or home. Taking care of our common home is done in and through relationships. But how are we committed to and treat those we are connected to? Caring for someone or something is complex. It produces moral dilemmas and the risk of being hurt. Relationships are fragile. This is an existential condition. Fragility is also a key feature of relational goods, as Martha Nussbaum describes, that I will return to. Another central question is, who do we recognize to be in relation with? In my chapter in the glossary, I draw attention to that we are connected not only to humans, but to many forms of lives in the natural world. Even if this often goes unnoticed by many of us. This is relevant when repairing the language of economics, as we try to in the EU glossary. Francis of Assisi knew that we are deeply connected to nature. But mainstream psychology has traditionally advocated a narrow understanding of relation and relationships, neglecting to a great extent that we are dependent on the natural world with all its many life forms. Now this is changing, but it goes slow. I remember listening to a person who shared the pain he felt over dying trees. He had experienced being comforted in forests and was deeply disturbed by humans' exploitation of nature. But his therapist had told him that one could not be attached to trees. Another problem that I think mainstream social psychology shares with mainstream economy is the emphasis on the instrumentalist motivation to explain and understand human behavior, when such behavior could rather be seen as expressions of alienated relations. Several theorists such as Grossa, understands the contemporary crisis in light of alienation and of alienated relationships. One could argue that there's a deeper and more solidaric human nature, as among others the philosopher Rybashka has done. When searching to restore broken relationships and to find new ways forward from the current crisis, there are some guiding principles to be found in relational goods. Within this limited time frame, I will only briefly mention this topic. Relational goods are referring to intangible goods emerging from a relationship that cannot be reduced to the sum of its parts, such as, for example, music from a symphony orchestra, experience of trust, or a welcoming atmosphere in a neighborhood. In other words, something that goes beyond what is measurable and controllable. In line with the Neo-Aristotelian tradition, Martha Nussbaum emphasizes that a true friendship can never be instrumental. Rather, the relationship itself should be seen as a relational good. Hence, a relational good comes without an agenda. Such a perspective is, of course, at odds with today's accelerated societies and the imperative of economic growth, cultivating individually oriented goals. Again, I think we can learn from nature and animals about being in relations without any agenda. When I was on my way to Lisbon yesterday, I read what the philosopher Levinas writes about an experience from a German concentration camp. He tells about the stray dog Bobby, who somehow had gotten lost into the camp. Every time Levinas and his fellow prisoners came back from work, Bobby would run towards them, jumping up and down of joy. To him, there was no doubt that we were men, Levinas writes. In other words, the dog recognized the prisoner's dignity that the guards in the concentration camp could not. Hence, there was much more of a relationship between Levinas and the dog. As I mentioned in the beginning, the recognition of a relational nature with nature is strongly present in the Canticle of the Creatures, where St. Francis sings to Brother Sun, Sister Moon, etc. I propose that if we recognize the value of nature and non-human lives by also giving it importance through our language, it would be more difficult to exploit it. And as Pope Francis writes in Laudato Si, a true ecological approach is always a social approach and vice versa. Let me conclude with a proposal to redefine the term relationship in light of the reflections that have emerged in recent years in the context of the Convent Francesco. Relationship consists of the different types of bonds that exist between relational subjects and all living beings, which are essential to make our presence in the world possible. A presence that is always co-presence, being with the other in such a way as to produce relational goods, in particular the common good. Thank you.
Olá, boa tarde. I will speak in English because I am here from March, from the 1st of March in Lisbon, but Portuguese is too much difficult for me, so excuse me, but I will speak in English. I am Serena Ionta. I'm doing a PhD on macroeconomics, so I am the only economist here, so I am the problem here. But sometimes I write also other things, and I try to link this with economia Francesco. So I wrote the word of justice, a very difficult word. We know that justice encapsulates a complex range of meanings that are very difficult to handle, to manage, especially if we want to do a vision and to make a perspective from the economy of Francesco community. So for this reason, I have not any presumption, to provide a complete reclassification and to create a very deep meaning. But I will try with you. We know that justice is an important word for the construction of a new glossary. If we think about economics, we think about what is just and what is unjust. So it's very important to reconstruct the meaning of the justice. Why I'm saying this? Because along the understanding of justice, along with its distinction from injustice, plays an important role in shaping the very essence of the economics. And the very essence of the economics leads also to what the economic science lead in the society. So it's very important because it's related to its potential contribution to the society, so to us. And we know that the word derives from the Latin, from justitia, which derived from justus, meaning just. What is the meaning behind it? Is law, right? And this is from the ancient philosophy and the Greek school. It was for them an intimate consequence of the knowing of what is good, what is true. This is just what is good. So what is good now in the society? What is good in the economics? Another point of view is the biblical point of view. The justice is not, from a biblical point of view, from a theological point of view, is not a catalog of rules, of guidelines to follow. It is rooted in the very nature of God and in the result of an attribute of what is the divine origin. So, God Himself is justice. In the Bible, the justice of God is both retributive and restorative. It repairs, it restores. So it's not a classification of routes we have to follow. It's about, generosity. It's about the capabilities, the transformation of life, the restoration of life. So, biblical justice is related to radical generosity, universal equality, a sense of care, which is missing in our society. And these considerations are important because from an economic point of view, from a handbook of economics, an handbook of microeconomics, the science is the economic science is based on the Bentham theory of justice. It's based on the philosophical utilitarian conception of justice. What is it? What does it mean? A just society is one in which greatest happiness for the greatest number of people is achieved. So, meaning that the people in the society, the member of the society, are in a society which is just if they maximize their well-being. And what is their well-being? Is the utility. This is the utilitarian things, so, and the utilitarian roots of the economy. So, what the economic theory teach our day in general is that there is an utilitarian logic behind the theory. And our society is based on this. So all the members of the society have to maximize their utility like a puzzle, like an aggregation of the society. So it's very individualistic, It seems like this. This is the just society of the economic theory. And as an economist, I have to speak about stylized facts because we love facts, we love data, we love to analyze data. And now we have, nowadays we speak about two types of justice, the environment justice and the social justice, which according to Pope Francis and the civil economy in general is very interconnected. each other. They are very connected. But I just two numbers. The World Inequality Report of 2022 say that only 2% of the global wealth is held by the 50% of the poorest population, while the wealthiest 10% owns more than 75% of the global health. This is a fact. After another fact, there are a lot of reflection about this. There is also the environmental justice. The report of World Meteorological Organization say that in the 6 years before the 2020 were the hottest, But what I want to say is this, and I have finished. We need a paradigm shift in the roots of the economy, or better, in the theoretical perspective of justice. According to the Economy of Francesco community and to Pope Francis' word, we know that we are part of the common home where we encounter not only the earth, il creato, we say the creation, but the people who live in the creation, in the world. So this is the idea of Pope Francis about a common home. So we have to rethinking about what is justice, and we have to rethinking about what we need really in our life as a sociological level, as a philosopher level, and psychological level. So. And it's okay because my time is finished. Sorry for.
Okay, we are reaching the last part of this book presentation, which is a question and answer moment, okay? Because I see many people in the room, I see many people connected from home. While we are waiting for Julia, who is helping me with this question and answer moment, which is always very interesting because these concepts usually inspire people to ask questions. I just wanted to underline, you may have understood that there is a theory, several theories from contemporary economics and past economics within the book. So it's not just how beautiful or great St. Francis is, but it's theoretical, grounded work. As a matter of fact, several people are using this book for their thesis in universities, and so it's recommended. Questions? I have to say that, right? And we are proud of this book. Yes, questions? Does somebody want to ask? Someone over there, maybe?
If you like, I have some thoughts.
Of course, it's coming. Yeah, come. We have got several friends in the Economy of Francesco, and we are very happy to see some of them now. Just like John, please come here because otherwise
We're dealing with a very subtle subject. It's very psychological, physical, mental, spiritual. And we're talking about an emerging new world. We're talking about a different use of language, no matter which language we speak. We're talking about how we use that language to change dialogue at the economic level, the brutal, bloody economic level at which we have to live, because the language of politics, economics, has lost its meaning. Most politics today is the invasion of the truth. It's the invasion of beauty. It's the invasion of subtlety, relationship, being and knowing. It's a time of great change where we must use the language so beautifully expressed yet here, graciously, emotionally, subtly, knowing that every word we utter has deep meaning and a great implication upon each individual heart and mind. And when we hear politicians speak, I'm sorry, because they're the economists who are running our society, they never use the word love, or graciousness, or value, really, unless it's economic value. And so what is happening here, led by the amazing people of economy, Francesco, is a plea to save our future. It's a plea to ask those who lead us to refine themselves, to rededicate themselves to a different way of life, and to embrace the grace that can come in every language, be it English or Portuguese or Spanish or Russian or whatever, it doesn't matter what the language is. Every language has wisdom, every language has grace, every language has beauty, compassion, justice. And it's a bringing out of those words in each language and requesting our leaders and our humanity to talk with the language of love. It's very simple. It's the way a mother speaks to a child. Speak with the language of love. And then we have a new world. Actually, very easy to build a new world. Very, very easy indeed. We just change the way we speak to each other. And we change the way we see the future in a greater sense of justice and well-being. That's what I have to say.
Thank you so much for that comment. It made me think, so you talked about this book, but this book is part of a broader initiative of the economy of Francesco being a move towards the language of love in sort of political reality and an economic reality. And Pope Francis actually talks about that a lot in his encyclical Fratelli Tutti, about this kind of social love or this political love. And it's beautiful, and it's beautiful to see the book being translated into different languages, because this really reflects the universality of the concepts, that it can be implemented across really what we believe to be a universal sphere. As you were talking about the language of love, it really made me, I'm an economist by training, and currently a doctoral student in economics. And economics is the discipline of economics is going down a very dangerous path in wanting to proclaim itself a value-free or a sort of neutral subject. This is precisely what the initiative of this glossary aims to be a reaction to. It's what the economy of Francesco is a reaction to. That economics cannot be. It doesn't make sense for economics to be treated as a value-free domain, because it's not. Because economics is about establishing what as you talked about beautifully, what the common good is, how to manage the home. And as soon as you are considering what's good, what's bad, what's better, what's worse. By the way, my contribution to the book was well-being, so I was thinking a lot about these concepts of about this idea of how do you assess what's good and what's bad, and that implies a judgment, a value judgment, and hands down, you can't talk about what's good or what's bad without having an idea of what is good and what is bad, and so. Precisely. I mean, this book puts forward a vision and certain concepts and values towards building that economy of sort of a language of love. I don't think love was, there was agape. We talked about agape during, but love in itself is maybe not explicitly named, but that's what brings all of these concepts together.
And you will find Julia's intervention, Felicidade, in the book. Some other questions, like I collect a few questions, otherwise I answer to the question that people think normally, because we have been presenting the book in Italy several times, and there are always two questions coming up. First, in practice, what happens with the economy of Francesco or with this book? Because we all remember the Pope message during the last meeting in Assisi. There are three factors that need to be combined to make a change. It's the head, so ideas, the heart, and your hands. So this idea of incarnation, make it real, is part of the discussion. First of all, a book is tangible. It's not just words spread in the atmosphere. It's very practical and it exists. projects. And as we said before, it's used in schools and some younger entrepreneurs are using it. Second of all, we of course have to underline how in the economy of Francesco there are already some small companies raising some startup. Think of the farm of the economy of Francesco, which is presenting here in the other room today. Or think of these schools in Zambia where they are training young kids with IT competencies and skills. Think of these beautiful projects that they have just presented in the Economy of Francesco Summer School. There are people who have created some special liquids that, for instance, you can use in your own toilet, okay, to avoid the waste of water. Okay, so these ideas are already coming up in a very concrete way. And this is the first ideas which comes to my mind. I don't know if there are other projects in mind. Yeah, there's many. Just check on the website. The second question, which usually comes up, is how can we use this, for instance, to create projects at schools? How can we make this volume exist as a tool to produce in the most beautiful way some other projects? Well, that's very easy and very natural. We have several examples in Italy so far where there are teachers who are adopting this, not as a textbook, they just select some of the chapters that maybe are more easy to connect with the specificities of the territory where the school is. You don't have to read the whole book. You can also pick up some of the chapters you're more interested in, because there are diversities in this world. Not every place in the world is the same as the others. And I know for sure that there are some areas, for instance, in Italy, which suffers from severe environmental issues. So they took some concepts and they tried to, during the school year, inspired by this concept, they went to do some interviews with local politicians, with local entrepreneurs, and try to understand which the problems were, and then offers possible solutions. Or they try to write down some short articles within local newspapers, translating this, let's say, academic or also scientific concepts into everyday language. This is, for example, the kind of project that can do. And if you need help, because you've got an idea and you don't know how to do that, just call us, contact us as Economy of Francesco, or check out the names of the authors and contact them and try to enhance some collaborations. And what was your experience? I wanted to ask you, Julia, in summarizing these ideas within these short chapters, just a few pages, but
yeah, well, it's very difficult because you get a word like happiness or justice, or I mean, how do you write about that in a few words? It's difficult. But we have such a rich sort of tradition, even in the Catholic Church. Okay, Economy of Francesco is more than the Catholic Church, but Catholic social teaching is an incredibly broad collection of writings and of wisdom, really. And I think that is for me, that was a great starting point to understand these, to think about these concepts and expand them a bit further.
Yeah, that was tough, but now you've done the job, so it's there to be read. Okay, I am very happy when I finish on time, so we still have 5 minutes, but in these 5 minutes, I would like to ask the wonderful editora, which allowed us to publish this book and to make it concrete and real in the world, to say a couple of words about the process and maybe some future projects. I don't know, you tell me, please, everything.
Thank you. I will speak in Portuguese. Okay. So, voltando à língua portuguesa e estando aqui perante todos vós, é com muito orgulho que, de facto, a editora recebeu o desafio vindo do Padre José Manuel de Almeida para, quando nos entregou o texto em italiano, nos disse que tínhamos 2 desafios para este ano: editar este mesmo texto em português e em inglês. Portanto, nós estamos muito honrados com este lançamento, com esta primeira tradução para português, que hoje aqui se concretiza, e dou os parabéns aos autores aqui presentes. Congratulations for your work. Mas também já traduzido e já em curso está a edição em inglês, que vai ser lançada ainda este ano, estamos a estimar que seja em novembro. Portanto, estamos muito orgulhosos por estas duas edições e obrigada pelo desafio. Esta edição também está disponível em e-book. Portanto, é uma oportunidade também para chegar a outros mercados mais difíceis de chegar através do meio físico, que agora se concretiza. E, portanto, para nós e para estar presente nesta escola, que este ano faz 50 anos, a Faculdade de Economia faz 50 anos de existência, estar aqui a fazer o lançamento deste livro, que é um glossário, um repensar a economia, é de facto um momento muito especial. E obrigada a todos e muitos parabéns, mesmo.
Muito obrigado. Okay, the very last few words. Thank you very much for coming here, the people who are here in Lisbon. Thanks for all the people who are connected. Thanks to the Catholic University in Lisbon for supporting this project. And I also have to acknowledge the work of Professor Peter Hannenberg, who was also like a person who very naturally embraced the possibility to do this translation. So thank you very much, vielen Dank. And I usually conclude this kind of presentation reporting one beautiful sentence that it was pronounced during the last international event in Assisi in September 2022, which was the global gathering of the economy of Francesco. This is not just words which are floating in the air. This is not just ideas, very abstract. It's all very concrete, because this idea of a new economy, it's not a utopia, because we are already building it. So thank you very much, read the book, and let's stay in contact. Thank you very much. Obrigado.